Hello. Okay, so I've created this organizational chart for NetSuite, how we're gonna basically structure the system. So what's happening here is everything that comes in, whether it's through someone walking in through the door, application coming in through the mail, or in future something coming through a web form, it goes into this right here called leads. So it started off as a lead, and you just take in their basic information, a couple of fields, and then you classify as what kind of lead they are. So they could be a potential client lead, they could be a parent lead, they could be a child staff care lead, provider, employee lead, maybe like an intern or something, or a partners lead. So once you classify what kind of lead they are, they're saved in this leads database. In terms of workflow, this might then be passed on to someone else. So if someone is taking care of prospect leads versus someone else is taking care of provider leads, it might go on the respective desk depending on who it belongs to. Then once it becomes a prospect, so let's say it goes from leads to this person who is handling subsidy clients. So it goes to the prospect list. This is where you fill out the main application. So this is where we're basically going to put the parent form that we currently have. Once we fill that out, and I guess they are, they check to make sure that the client is eligible to receive this aid in their external system. So if the client qualifies for the aid, I guess they move into client and they become a parent. If they do not qualify to be a client yet, they stay in prospect. Maybe their paperwork is missing, or maybe something else needs to be done. Then it stays in prospect, or maybe their application gets denied. So then they stay in prospect. They never move to client. Once they become a client, if they have a co-applicant, their co-applicant is linked through their co-applicant form. So everything is going to be in the client record. All these different things are going to be linked with the client record. We'll have child one, and in case they have multiple childs, so child two, child three, four, five, whatever they have. So this will all be linked to client. That will be the client side of it. For example, if a lead comes in and it's someone who wants to volunteer, then that lead will go into the employees section, and whoever's in charge of handling employees will see which one of these they belong in, and then maybe they get moved to volunteer section. The main tabs that we're planning on having in NetSuite would be prospect, which is a subsidy prospect, right? These are the clients who are receiving, I guess, money from CFR. But there's also other type of parents who I guess, as Bob was telling me, only receive referrals and such, and they might not be in for the subsidy. So there's two kind of parents. So we will separate the two parents in under a subsidy category, prospect with subsidy, and a parent without subsidy. Sorry for moving that. Okay. So all these that you see here are going to be your main sub tabs. The ECC one right now, we're not working on that. That's to be decided for a later date. If we decide to add it, that has something to do with state, and then we don't need to concern ourselves with that right now. So we're only building up till employees, from here to employees. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 center tabs, but that's only for the administrator. For example, if I am a case manager, maybe I don't need to see employees list. I only need to see subsidy or prospect. So when my NetSuite account is calibrated, I'm only going to be able to view the prospect and maybe provider if I need to see that information with it. So my personal center tab would only have two tabs, two customized tabs, versus the admin who would have all these, everything. So so that's something to take from here. Apart from that, there's also products. I should add intern in employees, by the way. Employees, contractors, volunteers, donors. Yeah, I'll add interns in there as well. And then we have products which are offered by CFR. So the subsidies that people are receiving, or the workshops which are happening, are basic products of CFR. And these products could be linked to a specific client. So, for example, a workshop, I don't know if they're for clients or providers, but a workshop could be linked to a client or it could be linked to a provider. So we're going to have to build these separately as product, as if they have their own SKU and their own barcode, so that they can be linked to basically any client. And these are not going to be part of the internal record, basically. So that's what I have so far. I have the client thing nailed down pretty hard. I was sitting down with one of the case managers as well, who showed me how client runs. I'm still working on quite grasping what I'm going to make a record and how everything's going to flow. But I have a pretty good idea of how the internal system at CFR works for creating a client in general. So I'll see how I can transit that into NetSuite. So for these other ones that we have, I feel like it's good to divide these tabs into tasks. For example, one person takes a provider, one person takes up childcare staff, and everything that's related to childcare staff or provider. For example, if there's a provider form, if provider records need to be updated, you're taking out an Acroware list from for providers and uploading that into NetSuite. I feel like if all that is done by one person, we can make each other accountable for, if something goes wrong in provider, or if we don't know where certain things are or how to change certain things, we know who the point of contact is to fix things in provider. And of course, we're going to be helping each other out, but I feel like designating work and tasks like that, we will be able to learn ourselves better and fix those problems depending on, which area they arise in. So that seems to be the plan so far. I believe going on in the future, depending on whichever role whoever decides to take, we will have to investigate our roles a little bit further as well and see, if there's more sub-tabs pertaining to this, this tab, I guess. So, there could be other things under the other kind of parent, which is not a subsidy parent. There could be other things under a provider. There could be other things under community, but so far this is what we have. And if you, I feel like me and Bob were talking, and he said the two most important ones that we kind of need to even start and to get functional at any level would be prospect and provider, or the first four, to be honest. I mean, these two are kind of closely tied in. So but first four, but prospect and provider being the main ones. If we work in tiers, for example, I understand Jason has other jobs at CFR as well. So if it was me, Frank, and Jill possibly taking up one or two of these, then we would have two for one person and one each, and we would be able to finish first four relatively soon. And then we can start partners, community, and employees in the second phase. So I feel like this is probably the most complicated one. So we'll have to come up with exact strategy on how everything is. Like I said, once again, I'm working on that, and we'll see how everything goes. This Friday's meeting, I feel like we should also discuss what things in the system currently are usable right now and what we need to kind of build over or do over in that sense, what we can use, knowing what we know currently about this system and what we will be able to use. One thing we do have to keep in mind, I forgot to put these arrows, is let me see if I can put it right now. Shapes, arrows, come on, two-way, there you are. So the information is, all right, I don't know why it's... Ooh, okay, that's a really big arrow. But the information is also going to be flowing between, for example, prospect and parent. So if someone stays, they come in as a lead, they become a prospect, but they never become a client, they could potentially become a provider later on, or they could become an employee later on. So we should be able to move this information across. Let's see if we can try to figure a way out instead of creating a new lead every time. But if not, then we can worry about that problem at a later date. I don't think that's that requires immediate attention, but that's something to keep in mind while we build this system. So that's it. If you have any questions for me, do let me know in the email. And this Friday, hopefully, we'll come up with a collective strategy of how exactly we can do everything. Right now, me and Frank are studying something called Sweet Flow. So I was able to find the Sweet Flow manual in the Sweet Answers section, or the help section of the NetSuite software. So if you click on help and user guides, you'll be able to see the SweetFlow user guide. And this is a pretty handy user guide which tells you how SweetFlow works, which is going to be for workflow in NetSuite. And there's also some training videos if you want. I can tell you exactly how to reach him. Shoot me an email. And that's all pretty much there is. So thank you.